Imagine walking into the grand temple of Zeus at Olympia nearly 2,500 years ago. The air is thick with incense, the flicker of oil lamps reflects off polished marble floors, and before you stands a sight so magnificent that ancient travelers declared it one of the 7 wonders of the world. At the center of the temple sat a colossal statue of Zeus, king of the gods, crafted from ivory and gold. The sculptor Phidias designed it not just to inspire awe, but to embody the very idea of divine power on earth. The statue of Zeus was created around 435 BC by the master sculptor Phidias, the same genius behind the Parthenon's decorations in Athens. By this time, Olympia was already a sacred site, home to the Olympic Games and the great Temple of Zeus, completed just a few years earlier. But the temple, though massive and elegant, was empty inside. The Eleans, the people who controlled Olympia, wanted a centerpiece that would outshine all rivals. They turned to Phidias, who by then was the most famous artist in Greece. Phidias designed a seated figure of Zeus nearly 40 feet tall, so large that the god's head nearly brushed the roof of the temple. The statue showed Zeus sitting on an elaborate throne, holding a statue of Nike, the goddess of victory, in his right hand and a scepter, topped with an eagle, in his left. His skin was made of ivory plates fitted over a wooden frame, while his robes and ornaments were crafted of hammered gold. Jewels and precious stones adorned the throne, which itself was a masterpiece of cedar, ebony, and ivory. For ancient visitors, the effect was overwhelming. The historian Strabo wrote that if Zeus were to stand, he would unroof the temple. The geographer Pausanias called it the most magnificent work of Phidias. The statue's size, materials, and craftsmanship made it one of the wonders of the ancient world, drawing pilgrims for centuries. But how much did it cost then, and how much would it cost now? Unfortunately, no detailed accounts survive of the statue's exact expenses, but we can make educated estimates based on the materials and techniques. The statue was composed of a wooden framework covered with plates of ivory and gold. Ivory, taken from elephant tusks, was one of the most expensive materials in antiquity, reserved for luxury items and religious dedications. Gold, of course, was the ultimate measure of wealth. The ivory alone would have required tusks from dozens, perhaps hundreds of elephants. At the time, elephants were hunted in North Africa and India, and tusks were traded across the Mediterranean. In modern terms, the ivory equivalent would cost tens of millions of dollars. Today, of course, ivory is banned due to conservation, so a reconstruction would need substitutes such as high-quality resin, bone, or lab-grown ivory analogues. The gold is easier to estimate. If Phidias used several tons of hammered gold for Zeus's robes, ornaments, and throne, then at modern gold prices, roughly $60,000 per kilogram, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars in gold alone. Even a conservative estimate of 1 ton would equal nearly $60 million. 3 or 4 tons could reach $250 million. Then there's the throne. It wasn't just a chair, it was itself a wonder, richly decorated with ivory, ebony, precious stones, and elaborate carvings of gods and heroes. A modern reproduction by top artisans could cost tens of millions more, especially if real gemstones were used. Labor costs must also be considered. In antiquity, Phidias had a workshop of assistants, apprentices, and enslaved laborers. Today, recreating the statue would require a team of master sculptors, engineers, conservators, and materials scientists. Over several years, salaries and project management could easily reach another $100 million. And then there's the temple. The original statue sat inside the Temple of Zeus, itself one of the largest Doric temples ever built. To house the statue today, we'd need either to reconstruct the temple or design a modern museum space capable of accommodating a 40-foot ivory and gold figure. The building alone could cost another $200 to $300 million. So, putting it all together, ivory substitutes and gold $300 million to $500 million. Throne and ornamentation $50 million to $100 million. Labor and expertise $100 million. Housing and infrastructure $200 million or more. A realistic modern price tag between $700 million and $1.2 billion, and possibly much higher if authentic gold quantities were matched. To put that in perspective, that's the cost of a top-tier sports stadium, a cutting-edge skyscraper, or an advanced space mission. Rebuilding Zeus would be one of the most expensive art projects in human history. But beyond money, there's symbolism. The statue of Zeus was never just a decoration, it was a declaration of faith, power, and artistry. To the Greeks, Zeus embodied order and authority. His statue at Olympia was a reminder that the Olympic Games were not just sport, but a sacred festival in honor of the gods. Rebuilding it today would mean resurrecting not only a wonder of art, but a piece of humanity's spiritual imagination. There would, of course, be controversy. Conservationists would argue against using ivory, even substitutes. Religious groups might object to resurrecting a pagan god in monumental form. And governments would debate whether billions should be spent on heritage projects instead of hospitals or schools. But there's no doubt that such a project would capture the world's imagination, much like the restoration of the Acropolis or the reconstruction of Notre Dame in Paris. Ultimately, the statue of Zeus at Olympia remains lost to time, its memory preserved only in ancient descriptions and scattered coins that show its outline. But imagining its rebirth forces us to confront the scale of ancient ambition and the limits of our own. Could we rebuild it? Yes, with enough money, expertise, and determination. Should we rebuild it? That depends on whether we value cultural memory as much as we value steel, glass, and concrete. In the end, the cost of rebuilding Zeus is not measured only in dollars or gold, but in meaning. For the ancients, the statue was priceless. For us, it would be a multi-billion-dollar tribute to the power of imagination. A reminder that even lost wonders can still inspire awe across the centuries. And this is just our second stop in the journey through the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Next, we'll travel to Halicarnassus, where a towering tomb once defined architectural splendor. The mausoleum, another ancient wonder whose echoes still shape our ideas of greatness today.